Yo, what's good, Hot Peppers? This is everything you need to know for the best settings for Black Ops Cold War. Just know sometimes it's not the class setup and it could be the settings you use or the equipment. There's a lot of variables of why you may not be able to play better than the other person, which is why this video will be the best settings video you'll watch on Cold War. I'll cover everything you need to know, and if you're still playing Modern Warfare and you need the best settings on that game, there will be a pop tag on the top right of the screen to that video for you guys to check out. Keep in mind, there is timestamps on this video, so feel free to skip ahead and find the specific settings you need, but just know there will be newer informative stuff in this video compared to the last video back in Modern Warfare, where I covered extra stuff like the equipment I played with and my internet speeds. So first, let me begin with the equipment I currently play with. I get a lot of questions about how I'm able to snipe efficiently, so my biggest secret is using my very own Source Scuff gaming controller. As cliche as this may sound, this controller allows me to do everything I want in game without any limitation. I don't use 4 paddles, I only use 3. I'm able to slide cancel, bunny hop, jump, swap weapons, and reload without taking my thumb off of my controller. I also don't need to play claw, so I can avoid getting a carpal tunnel on my hands. Playing claw can be dangerous, so I have digital tap bumpers and digital tap triggers on my controller, meaning it's an instant click when I press the buttons, and it also sounds like a mouse click. If you guys are interested in buying a Scuff controller, there will be a link in the description below to check out their website. And of course, if you need a discount on the purchase, code SOAR will save your pockets. As of recently, a few days after my gaming setup video, I upgraded my monitor from an Asus 144Hz 1080p monitor to an Asus 1080p 280Hz monitor. The exact model name for both monitors will be in the description below. For console players out there, this monitor is overkill and I wouldn't recommend this. If you're on PC, feel free to consider it based off your budget, but this monitor allows me to see around corners a lot smoother and have the upper advantage, leaving me being able to compete in competitive tournaments. So yes, pro players have very high refresh rates on their monitors. Get away from 60 FPS and move on to the future of PC frames. If you guys saw a couple of videos back, the current gaming setup I have is built off of a dual PC setup format, which allows me to capitalize on my frames. If you guys want to see all the equipment that I use for my setup along with my specs, there will be a pop tag on the top right of the screen for that video. Moving forward, so I know you guys wanted to see me show off the graphic settings to maximize your FPS. There's a few things to do before you jump on the graphic settings. Even if you turn down everything, you always gotta make sure you update your NVIDIA drivers and your motherboard drivers, because those things make a huge difference on your FPS. And you're probably wondering why you're averaging 148 FPS and all of a sudden you're struggling to get past 100. So if you don't know how to update your drivers, simply going to the NVIDIA website and downloading the drivers manually and or downloading the GeForce Experience, and they will automatically notify you when the drivers are available for you to update. As for our motherboard goes, you must look up what motherboard you have. I have an Asus ROG Strix B550A gaming motherboard, so I would simply look up my motherboard on Google, click on the Asus website, go to support, then drivers and tools, select a Windows 10 operating system, then update all the drivers that are listed below. Every motherboard is different when it comes to updating your drivers, so make sure you look up the manual for each one along with the tutorial on YouTube if needed. Other than that, I would help you guys, but unfortunately, you're on your own on that one because, like I said, every motherboard is different, and these drivers will boost your frames from 20 to 60 FPS, if not possibly more if your drivers aren't up to date. So of course, in my hand, when I didn't upgrade my drivers, I was getting about 200 frames per second on a 3080, and I updated it and I was able to average 100 to almost 200 extra frames. So they make a huge difference. One really cool thing to know about PC stuff is that RAM speeds help your FPS. As bad as it sounds, I actually didn't know about that until recently. So for Cold War, you want to make sure your RAM speeds are in between 3200 and 3600. Past 3600 I was told was overkill, but your cast latency is very important. 60 and below is best for fast RAM. The lower the better, but also the more in price. Some other things that lots of people don't know is that your RAM is on default speeds. They're not being used properly. In your BIOS, make sure you enable the XMP profile. To do that, as said earlier, every motherboard or BIOS is different, so make sure once again to look up your motherboard and update it properly. Moving into the control panel and NVIDIA control panel. This should be the easiest part. In your control panel, under hardware and sound, go to power options, then select high performance. Now go into your NVIDIA control panel by going on your desktop and right clicking to go to NVIDIA control panel. Once you're there, copy all these settings and feel free to pause the video if needed. As a quick side note, if you don't have a 3080 graphics card like I do myself, you may not see some of these settings. So don't worry about them, just look past it and make sure all of it is copied for the best frames. And one of the settings, instead of putting it at 16x, if you're on a lower end graphics card, put it on 8x. Also, one other thing to keep in mind is that no, I'm not an advanced computer genius like my friend OD Technology himself, but he helped me find the best frames out of the NVIDIA control panel. One last thing before we get into the actual graphic settings, please, rookies, enable your 144Hz monitors in the NVIDIA control panel by going under the display tab into change resolution, click on your monitor, find PC 1920 by 1080, then on the right, your refresh rate, click on it, it should drop down and say your highest hertz on that monitor. Click apply, then yes, and you'll notice a difference based off your mouse cursor. So many people buy a higher hertz monitor and don't know about this. So make sure you do this. Thank you. So anyways, finally, the settings you've been waiting for. The graphic settings on Cold War. These settings are the best settings for higher FPS. However, if we get into the DLSS, if you're on 1080p, you want it on performance because depending on the graphics card, you'll see the increase on frames. The DLSS works on 20 series and 30 series cards best. 10 series don't have support for DLSS, so if you're on a 30 series card, you want it on quality on 1440p, and you'll see an increase on frame rate. Do not touch balance, they don't do anything for the cards on the graphics side. The 3080 is a bottleneck on the 1080p monitors because 1440p monitors would match the same frame rate as the 1080p monitors. So if you're getting 300 FPS on 3080s, at 1080p, you'll get 300 FPS on the 3080 at 1440p. For 10 series cards, you won't see the NVIDIA DLSS, but you'll see the anti-aliasing. You can have that disabled or at medium. 2070 Super and below, you can rock low to medium settings. If you're on a 3070 card on a single PC, then you can rock medium settings. Now, if you have a 30 series card and have a dual PC setup like I do myself, this is the setting I currently use when I stream, so feel free to copy at your own risk. One thing I did forget to mention is I cap at 240 frames. That way I don't have any screen tear on my Elgato 4K capture card. But for the purpose of this video, I put unlimited frames so you can see the decrease and increase on the FPS. Real quick, guys, if you find this video pretty helpful so far, be sure to drop a like, and only takes like less than 3 seconds. Next up is audio. Audio makes a huge difference for streams and recording. But if you're a casual player and you don't record, these settings you don't have to worry about too much besides maybe the audio preset. Master is at 80 volume. The higher the better the quality. I don't really care too much for it considering I use earbuds. They're called the Sennheiser 6X100. So I still have them from my previous Modern Warfare video. Music is at 0. I think it's distracting and I have my own music for my streams. The rest is maxed out. Audio preset is at Treyarch Mix. I believe pro players use high boost to hear footsteps better. Again, I pub stomp, so I don't need to hear footsteps all the time unless I'm playing Search and Destroy. Now for my voice settings, this is all personal preference, so adjust it to your likings and your setup's best compatibility. For any dual PC setup users out there, if you watch my previous video on how I go back and forth with my gaming PC and my streaming PC, I use a USB switch. So I want to use one keyboard for 2 PCs and 2 mice. One for streaming and another for gaming. With the gaming one, I use one of the hotkeys for push to talk. So instead of switching my keyboard with a USB switch, I only use the mouse hotkey button on the side here and talk in game. I highly recommend doing this for any dual PC setup users out there just trying to make their setups a lot nicer. And I use my Go XLR to split my AT2035 microphone to talk in my gaming PC and my streaming PC, and my earbuds to hear both PCs. The USB is hooked up to the streaming PC, which allows me to have a channel to have a microphone and audio pass through. Then the optical cable to hear my gaming PC. Then the aux cable to talk into my gaming PC for game chat, which is why I have the G Model O for push to talk on the side keys. And yeah, I could use keyboard and mouse for Call of Duty. All I would have to do is switch the profiles on the program on the gaming PC, then my push to talk would be V on the keyboard. So for console people or controller players, here's the best settings you guys can rock with. I rock with a 1440 sensitivity. So to find your sensitivity, my biggest advice would be hopping into a private match, find an object to look at. Do a full 360 and try to land your crosshairs in the back in the same spot. Keep in mind that if you're constantly switching sensitivity, your consistency will be off. So stick to one and keep practicing. Try not to overthink it. Roughly, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks, maybe about a month to match your sensitivity if you're putting on lots of hours into the game. ADS-6 sensitivity for low zoom and high zoom. They're both at 1 for me, but adjust them to whatever you feel comfortable with. I rock the tactical button layout. This allows me to crouch without taking my thumb off the thumbstick. I shoot with my bumpers because bumpers have a better response time to shoot than the triggers. Inverted disabled, use it if you're used to it. Using linear feels like the old COD aim assist to me. Controller vibration is off. That messes with me on my aim personally. Moving on to the aim assist stuff. So there's multiple variations of aim assist in this game along with the aim response curve type. There's standard, legacy, precision, and focusing. If I'm gonna be honest, standard is the weakest one. Precision is really great for sniping. I've noticed as you're going up on the target aim assist mode, your aim assist gets heavier for a sniper. There's no hipfire aim assist with the sniper in this game, and only when you zoom in. As far as mantle behavior goes, I use on second press on grounded mantle behavior. Mantling on this game is really annoying for me personally, and I have to have the setting like this because it basically matches the old COD's mantle behavior. Aim down sight behavior and steady aim behavior both on hold. Armor behavior, apply all. Attack vehicle, control mode. I don't use this considering I don't use tanks in 12v12. And the stick layout on default. Deadzone is the most important thing when it comes to finding your aim assist, because this actually can mess with a lot of your activity and how you react and your controller and whatnot. Now, these Deadzone settings may not be the best for you because this is my max sensitivity sniping. You may not like max sensitivity sniping, which is completely okay. This is just something I prefer for my playstyle. So for Deadzone, try not to change it much because it's based off of your stick drift. Meaning that if you have stick drift, you probably need a new controller or you need to clean that musty controller of yours because you haven't cleaned it since you bought it. That's pretty gross. You'll find some dead skin under that thumbstick. As mentioned earlier in the video, with my scuff controller, I'm able to take out the thumbstick and clean the insides of it, allowing me to last longer with this controller. So for my left stick, it's 0 and 40 because my sprint becomes super responsive, making it easier for me to sprint the second I think about it. For a sniper that has been sniping for over a decade, I choose a snipe at a max sensitivity so that way I can flick on my enemies faster and make quicker decisions. Auto move forward, I think that's a really weird feature and you don't really need that. Auto sprint is really nice if your sprint button doesn't work efficiently, and you'll probably notice a nicer response time with auto sprint forward. Definitely recommend trying that out. Sprint cancels reload. Have that at disabled. Simply pressing the triangle button cancels it. So of course, since I have a scuff, this is not necessary to use. Parachute auto deploy disabled. Trust me, you don't want this. This will mess you up mid-gunfight, and sometimes the game glitches and pulls out the parachute. Equipment behavior on hold, and then interact reload behavior on tap to reload. For Warzone though, I have to tap to interact and making it easier for me to pick up weapons or equipment off the ground. Okay, so for the last settings on Cold War, account and network. Your NAT type needs to be on open. If it's moderate or strict, that prevents you from joining your friend. And obviously for you to change that, you need to go into your router settings. So I see a lot of people have random widgets being shown through the game on the top left of their screen. The truth is the only ones you really need is FPS, server latency, and your GPU temperature. I mean, maybe your CPU temperature, but Call of Duty is GPU based game, so it's using a lot of your GPU. FPS counter to see how many FPS you're getting in game, so you get to know if you're getting the correct amount of frames. Server install latency to know if your ping is spiking or to know if you're on east or west or even on the right servers you're supposed to be on. The temperature to know if your GPU is overheating and you need to turn up the fans, or if your PC is having problems. Before, my GPU temperature spiked to 80 degrees and I had to turn up my fans to keep it at 75 degrees and below. The higher it is, the worse it is, obviously. So to keep your PC cool at all times for performance and less chances of damaging your GPU. Packet loss is a huge issue for my internet speeds, but I don't keep it on because it's not really accurate. So as for the rest goes, you could just adjust these settings. If you're a streamer, make sure you disabled real names filter just in case if you have any IRL friends that you don't want to expose. So finally, the last couple of the settings to go over, I don't use any NVIDIA filters, but I do use saturation on my videos to keep the colors popping on this game. So I use it on, programs like Sony Vegas. So it's very slight to keep the video appealing, but I figured I'd give you guys extra details of how I make my videos and how I play in game. If you guys found this video helpful, do me a small quick favor in return. Like this video, subscribe with the notification bells on, and most importantly, share this with a friend because they're probably going to need some help. So don't be selfish. Click on that share button and share it with a friend. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Peace.